Welcome to another episode of Leadership Unveiled. Thanks for being here. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Kayla, aka KFA, and I'm here to help you stay organized while you live a full life and try to do it all like me. So let's get into today's episode of Leadership Unveiled. Hello and welcome, Julie. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an intro. So Julie Wenzlick is a rock star professional who works in corporate finance. She's also a business owner and runs PW Planners and has her own podcast called Better Everyday Podcasts, which I love. It's on YouTube and the podcast apps. Check it out. She's a wife and mama. So she does all the things. So she fits in perfectly with the theme of our podcast and everybody that listens. So I'm grateful that she's here today with us. So thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. And I feel, it's your first interview or second interview?
Yes.
So
You are my first guest. I've never had a guest.
I will try to do it justice. We will see.
You were the inaugural guest. I'm super excited about it. I was actually afraid to have guests because I didn't know how to figure all the tech out, which is just so silly. But so I'm glad you reached out.
Yes.
We can
learning
do
code.
it.
Yeah.
So I just want to hear more about you. Tell me about your work and your home and your kiddo and just maybe how you met your hubby and
All the
where you're
things.
from. Yeah, tell me all the things.
So as you mentioned, my name is Julie Wenzlick. I am also from Wisconsin, but northern Wisconsin. So I always do the hand thing, right? And you're up here.
Yeah.
So both my husband and I grew up in Minocqua, Wisconsin, and we started dating 2 weeks before we graduated high school. So technically we are
Oh
high
my
school sweethearts,
gosh.
but I always kind of don't count it because I'm it wasn't really during high school, right?
Right.
But it was very new. And so we've been together since 2007, which would make it I don't know how many. Is it 16 years? However many years that is.
Girl math.
Yes.
I don't know.
And then this year we will be married 11 years. So got married, I think, 2 years out of college. And for the most part, we've been together the whole time. We had a 3-day split at the beginning of college. But I was I don't want to be dating anyone. And he convinced me otherwise. So
That's
we
awesome.
have a almost 5-year-old daughter. She is an only, and the current plan is to be the only. I mean, that's the plan. And I work in corporate America. I have been with my current organization for 11 years. I have been in the same career since 2009. So again, however long that is. And how I describe my career is I am a workplace retirement plan consultant, which ultimately means I work with organizations and business owners to manage their 401k and pension plans for their employees. So I am a licensed financial advisor. Nothing I say will be investment advice on this podcast. Required disclosure.
It sounds so fancy.
Yeah. But I basically give investment advice for the lineups within a 401k, as well as help with all the regulatory plan design, all that. And I completely fell into the career. I went to school at St. Thomas for corporate finance. And when kind of both of us were going to school, it was during the financial crisis. So being a finance major in the financial crisis didn't leave me a ton of options. There was a lot of competition for jobs when I was graduating because there was a ton of people that had just gotten laid off. So fell into an internship and realized there was this whole other world of finance. And I ended up falling in love with it because I got to meet and go places and not have to sit behind a desk, which I just love that aspect of having the variety in my career.
I love seeing what you post on Instagram, oh, dropped off the kid and then you're going to see a client. I'm oh, I love that. Even if it's long days and drives and stuff. Or I don't know, just it's a change of scenery.
Correct. It's not, I get super bored when I do have my career is very cyclical. So I will be slow for about 4 weeks and then really, really busy for 6 weeks and then kind of back and forth. And so when I'm not in meeting season, I get very like antsy because I'm just
Yeah.
sitting at a desk all day and I can't stand
Yeah.
it. So definitely has been a career that I fell into, but a blessing for sure. And then on the side, I have had some sort of passion project on the side, I think since at least 2015. But in the last 3 years, I started P&W Designs, which focuses originally on just custom planners for small business owners. And it's really kind of ebbed and flowed to productivity planners as well as just more basic graphic design work because I always say that I'm equally left and right brained. And obviously, like my corporate job is very left brained. So
Yeah.
I get to stretch my right brain.
Oh, I love that. I think that's why you find people that are like in like these hard sciences or like finance and science like me, and then they also have like a creative side hustle because
Yeah,
you kind of need both, right?
yeah,
Like I'm sure that without the other one, you're like, part of it's missing.
for sure. Yeah, it's definitely kept my, I don't know, passion alive in my life is just having something that challenges me. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. And then you're from Wisconsin too. I just need to point
yes.
that out, right? You talked
Yes.
about that you're from using the mitten or the hand. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like we vibe because we kind of have similar backgrounds. We both have kids and have these really full lives and jobs. And then we still find time for these like side hustles. Um, and so you kind of touched on it, but yeah, that you have these other passions that you want to tap into. So you keep doing your business. Like what drives you to keep like growing that? Because I feel like I see you online being like super intentional and like paced. And sometimes in my mind, I'm like, blah, I need to do all the things. But it seems like you're so like, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this. And I've just seen your business like pop off. And I'm like, how's she doing that? That's so cool. Do you have any secrets?
Um, I think so for me, it's a lot about, I've been reflecting on this recently, just even with my career,
Mm-hmm.
being in the same job for over 10 years. I'm not challenged in my corporate job anymore. And, I do it well. I basically left to my own devices, right? Leadership isn't managing me on a micro level,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't teach me anything, right? I'm almost done learning, which is sad to say, but it's just like I learn a little bit, but not in the growth rate that I was in my 20s. And so running the P&W Designs gives me a passion of learning, right? You were talking,
Mm.
or you've talked in the past about like just loving learning from a school perspective. And I think running a business has given me that passion for learning in a different way. And so that is what a lot of times what has driven my passion. The other thing is as an Enneagram 3
I
mostly.
wanted to ask you about your Enneagram on
Yeah.
this.
I go in between. I'm like either I'm an 8 or a 3, right? I'm a
Uh-huh.
very
Yeah.
direct person, but obviously I have that achiever mentality as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just love creating on my own and having control over it too, right? You get to control, like you said, the growth rate and the intentionality behind it. And the other thing is I have a husband who doesn't have that same energy around growing. So he's very content just helping manage the household and kind of being that more house husband.
Kind of
And so that
picks up the
helps too.
pieces.
Yes. I definitely even told him that yesterday when we were talking. And I said, I have a goal to grow my business from an income perspective quite a bit this year. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we are still paying student loans, however many
Mm,
years later.
same.
Yes. What is that like?
What happened to us?
I totally didn't think I would still be paying
St.
student loans.
Thomas is expensive.
Yes, it is. So with that, I want, I look at things and I'm like, I can just grow my way out of it, right? I can grow our
Sure.
income and
Yeah.
there's a wealth of opportunities. And, my husband definitely has more like, well, we'll just save money instead. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to make more. So,
Yeah.
that income is definitely a fueler, but it's just it makes me feel alive. And that's the weirdest way of putting it, but it definitely does.
I think that's
Oh,
cool. I think it's good, both the finance advice of just making more income, because I do think people will kind of wait and hope that their corporate job gives them a promotion. But as we know, like in our financial situations, a lot of times companies aren't giving as big of raises.
mm-mm.
And then you also have to make your value known at work. I'm sure you're very good at communicating, like, here's what I bring to the table, here's everything that I'm doing, so that if there is an opportunity for a raise, you get the best one that you can. But a side hustle helps fuel a passion and then can help you make a little bit more. I think at the beginning, we can complicate systems and maybe overspend on some of the things because we're like investing in courses or like buying the app and stuff. But I don't know about you, but over time, I've sort of streamed down and I'm like, okay, these are the core things I need to run my business without like, spending a lot of money on it. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, can you talk about that? Like, how do you, yeah, how do you plan to raise your income this year? Are you hoping to sell more things, or like, where is your business going?
Loaded question because I feel like it changes by the day. I am
I
someone
always love to
who
change my strategy.
I know I'm like
Midway
a little bit of a
strategy.
squirrel brain, but
It's okay.
I scaling a planner business is extremely difficult. And so, you know, 2021 was all about custom planners, which means there's design work and then the cost of the planner. 2022, 2023, I certainly did custom planner work. And in 2023, I leaned a little bit more into the planners that are on my site, right? Planner pads, systems that are more not just custom, especially for the person who's either just starting out or isn't running a business, because the custom planner side is really for people who are running a business. But 2024, I've always had this passion if you think about the custom planner side,
Yeah.
but design work is where I find the most joy. And
Hmm.
so for me, leaning into I've taken a couple courses on Procreate, and I'm going to be taking a full course on it this year. Obviously, I'm a master at Canva, but
Yeah.
outside of that, at this point, right? Custom, I call them brand patterns, but I really like creating brand patterns for people.
Cool.
So I've done that a couple of times. I've done some podcast rebrands. I've done social media templates, reel covers, all of that. And I'm also working on kind of more the VA side of things, but very niche on design. So
Mhm.
I do Pinterest outsourcing. So I have a
I
client.
see you doing that in the
Yeah,
evenings. I'm like, how's she like working and then doing like her own business and outsourcing other people's business
I will get to that
marketing?
because it's shifted a little bit
You
as
have to
far as
tell me.
focus is,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But so I do Pinterest outsourcing, and then I'm also doing WordPress blogging for the same person. So it's kind of
Okay,
all,
cool.
she basically has
Same
this. She's like,
content.
yeah, she's like, I'm just gonna hire you full time. And I'm like, we'll get there. But she has certainly challenged me to grow on my skill set because she's like, I need this. And I'm like, okay, I will learn it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
been
amazing.
fun. But as far as balancing even, my podcast and YouTube versus client project work, it all it all comes down to the list, right? So
True.
I have historically, certainly obviously I lean into paper planners, but as my site or P&W Designs has gotten more complex, I've actually been starting to play with ClickUp. And
Oh, okay.
um, part of the reason is it's a time tracker as well. So there
Yeah.
are certain aspects of what I'm outsourcing where I have to track my time. And so you can track time by task. And so I can kind of see how long is certain things taking me so that I can make sure I'm charging appropriately. And then you can categorize it. So I have actually been leaning a little bit. It's about a month old at this point, so I'm very new to learning it. It's a very complicated system, but at least one of the reasons that I like having both the digital list side and the paper planner side is I get very overwhelmed with seeing the entire list. and
Mhm.
kind of freak out about like, oh my God, my list is however long, right? And I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit on a digression here, but
It's okay. I love it.
I start the month looking at what do I need to accomplish in the month, right? So if I'm going to do 4 podcast episodes, which then means YouTube, which then means the blog, show notes, scripts, like all the things, I write all of that down. And then I obviously write down all my outsourcing VA design work projects that I have for the month. And I kind of like segment them into due dates. And then when I go to my paper planner, I only write in what's in for that week then. And then I can ignore the rest of the list. Because if I
Yes.
keep the entire list in my planner, I just like freak out. So,
No, I love that. I think that's applicable whether you're in corporate
mhm.
leadership or you're doing your own side hustle, because that's exactly how I set strategy for my corporate job too, where I'm like, okay, here's like the high level big picture strategy. So let's start with that and then work backwards. And then I love how you're like, okay, how do I prevent myself from getting overwhelmed? It's like, okay, well, then what do I need to do in this time period? Um, I think that time people don't time block, I think, because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, time blocking, it's too restrictive, but it's actually freeing in that way because it's like helps you focus, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I know you have your planner set up and I have your desktop
The planner
planner
pad. Yeah.
pad. I love it.
Definitely my favorite.
Yeah, like, can you talk about that? Like, how you're kind of time blocking and scheduling in, like, what you have to do for that week specifically?
So what I do is usually every Sunday, because I tend to put it off until Sunday night, I will highlight my time blocking for the week. And I use a erasable highlighter because sometimes I forget about things on
Ooh,
my
yeah,
list. But even in a corporate job where you are working a more traditional 9 to 5 like myself, I still highlight out that I'm going to be at my corporate job from like these hours, right? Even if I'm working from home, I'm still blocked for
yeah.
that
It's like
hours.
most of the day you're working your
Yes.
corporate job.
But then I'm able to visualize, okay, certainly have the intention of my morning routine every morning. And so then I plan out my workouts, which is a part of the Better Everyday 5 habits. And then what my husband and I have decided, and this probably doesn't work for families with multiple littles.
I think this is like the nugget I want to hear.
Well, again, I always have to put the qualifier that we have one child. But what we have decided is 4 nights a week, I have time for P&W Designs. And
Mhm.
so right now, Wednesdays is our family night. So we have swim and then we go to bingo
Oh,
because we're weird
bingo.
like that.
That's cool.
So we go to bingo on Wednesday night after swim, and then
Okay.
I'm not working that night, right? So I'm doing full
Mhm.
bedtime with them, bath, blah, blah, blah. And then the other nights, I will log into P&W Designs somewhere between 6:30 and 7. And my daughter right now is not going to bed until 9. So she is up
Oh,
for like,
bless your
yeah,
heart. It's so hard.
it's very hard. She never used to be that late, but I don't know, something happened. Anyway, so Matt will take the brunt of bath,
Yeah.
which my daughter is obsessed with baths, so she will stay in the bath for like an hour and
Okay.
play with her ponies and whatever. And so he's not like heavy parenting, right?
Yeah, you're
It's
supervising and
correct. Just making
making
sure
sure
she's
she's okay.
yes. And then we have kind of like the routine of bedtime. So I will usually do book kind of cuddle time, help, and then he'll get her in bed, get her a snack and
Mhm.
let her go to bed. So he does the majority of bedtime. And that has helped me get the time that I need to be able to work on P&W designs. But the other thing that I have somebody who, and you probably experience this too, if you're super passionate about your like extra
Yeah.
income, side hustle, whatever, sometimes it's hard to shut down, right? Because you're just like, you get it in the groove and you want to work. Well, that's really bad for cortisol, internal health, all of that, what I'm realizing. So I've had to force myself by 9 p.m., I need to shut off, regardless of how much I've gotten done. And so then 9 until sometimes 9:30, sometimes 11:30 if I get too into a book. I a way to turn off my brain from the day.
Yeah. Okay, so that's when like on Instagram you're like, I'm taking a bath, right?
Yes.
I love that. Okay. So I think this idea transfers to, it can transfer to other families that have more kids or maybe a partner who can't do that. I think the biggest thing is that number one, you're communicating with your partner and being like, what do we agree on as a family? So for like me, we can't, my husband actually works late, so I'm doing most of the evening things on some nights, and then he'll come home and then finish the routine, like finish the bedtime part with one of our kids. Or I'm doing both, and then he's coming home after. There's one night a week where he does all of it, and I just like work late to get more stuff done. So you just have to get creative. Most of the time I get my time like Sundays, like to work on my side hustle. So, but yeah, I think the thing to point out is that you're just like, communicating and you're super intentional. And then, you only have a limited amount of time. So you're just like,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. When I'm starting my work blocks, I'm never sitting there wondering what I should be
You
doing.
already have it planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I immediately have to go into it. Otherwise, I would never get anything done.
Yeah, totally. I love that. So the planner helps you stay organized in your system and the communication you have. So you mentioned you're better your everyday 5. I want to hear about that. I want my listeners to hear about that. So can you talk about what that is?
So it started with kind of the concept of seeing so many people not prioritizing themselves in their day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my friends who are either high achievers or just super busy. And so the 5 habits are, first one is movement 30, and which is just basically, and I actually do only 20 minutes a day, but move your body intentionally for 30 minutes a day. Now, I tend to try to get in 8 to 10,000 steps a day. So technically,
Yeah.
I am
Throughout the
moving for
day.
more than, yeah. So I get usually a 20-minute workout in, and then my steps. And I have a walking pad, which certainly helps as well.
I know. I'm like, ooh, do I want one? Like,
Yes,
because I
you
see
do.
you on
They're
there. I'm like,
amazing.
after I'm not pregnant anymore, I'm gonna get one. My husband's like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to fall off of it. I'm like, come on,
No, but I
relax.
wouldn't. I could see
I'm like,
anyone
I
saying
can
that.
fall walking normally. Like,
It's the same thing.
anyways.
Yeah. And then second one is tidy 15, which I would say is
Okay.
always my hardest to remember to do.
Mhm.
But it is basically taking 15 minutes to intentionally tidy something in your house. And sometimes it can be like the junk drawer that's bothering you, or it could be laundry, or it could be even like washing windows for 15 minutes, right? If you have something on,
Yeah.
I think owning a house, sometimes there's things on your list that are in your brain of like, this is bothering me and this needs to get done. That is
Yeah.
where that 15 minutes comes in. And it was something that we just do automatically after dinner. And so that's where I was like, oh, this should be a thing.
Yeah.
Third one is thankful 24. What are you thankful for in the last 24 hours? And that's just a fundamental of gratitude practice and bringing joy into your life. It's something that a lot of people talk about gratitude.
Yeah, but I
And
think we don't all do it, right?
yeah,
Like, and I think the act of writing it out is huge.
yeah.
Because when I
And
actually
sometimes
write
it's
it
as simple
out,
as like sun, you know?
yeah, like it's not like gray outside. That's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, Fourth one is my favorite, and that is one thing for you.
Yeah.
So, and again, I have heard feedback from people of like, well, what if it's the same thing every day? So what? I mean, for me, it's reading almost every day because it's something for me that turns off my brain that refuels me. And so one thing for you is definitely fundamental around what is just for you, not for anyone else, but for you.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be movement because that's already on the list.
I know. I'm really bad at this one. I feel like I was better before kids, and
Yeah,
then I was pretty good with after Kate for a while. And now I've
with
started to,
multiples.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
started to wonder like, what would my cortisol be if I got it tested? Like I kind of almost want to get it tested, but
Yep.
um and thinking about like how that can actually affect chronic and diseases and long-term health, I'm like, okay, I need to get serious about this. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really good one to highlight.
And then final is kind of that productivity side of things is what are your daily big three. And I use different terms for that, focus three. Sometimes it's focus one, depending on kind of your time in the day. And I don't use my corporate to-dos in those the big three, because
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have more than 3 corporate to-dos. So I have
You
my
keep
own
them
priority
separate.
list. Yeah, like I have
Yeah.
my own priority list for my corporate job. This is more this. A lot of times it's things like stuff for school, right? As Danny's kind of approaching that school age, it's like, oh, I need to register for XYZ. And I know the home admin tasks are my kryptonite. I just
Yeah.
really bad at them. So that's where I use that a lot too.
Ugh. That's where you have to start creating those systems for when school
Yeah.
starts.
I'm scared.
It's You'll be fine. For us, it was like having a spot to hang the backpack, and my daughter does that herself. And if she puts it on the floor, I'm like, hang it on the hook. And then I'm like, you need to take out your folder. You need to give me the papers. Like, and the teachers, don't worry, they'll tell you like they need to work on responsibility in kindergarten. So they'll encourage you like not to do stuff, and to encourage them to like take more accountability. So you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You're the systems queen. But just think about how you want your night to flow, and then create a system for that. Make it super easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a transition, that's for sure. Even remembering to register for things. And I also
It's
hate
tough.
checking my personal email. It's something I hate doing. And I know
Yeah.
schools use it a lot. So it'll be an
Yeah,
adjustment.
for sure. Yeah, I think I saw your podcast with your sister-in-law, and she was just saying like the emails from the school, she just gets them popping up on her phone because she has email on her phone. And honestly, that's the only way I can manage it and stay on top, is to read the ones from her teacher right away, and then like do the thing right away or put it on my list.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will forget. Because yeah, it's like, oh, bring a cereal box for Valentine's Day by this date. I'm like, oh my God, it's like the morning of. I'm like, do we have a cereal box?
Yes, exactly.
Like, yeah. So you'll figure it out. But I think that's cool. And I like hearing how you've got the 5 things you prioritize. And so when you look at those things, let's say you don't get to one of them, like, do you view that as like bad, or how do you manage that? Like, what is success like for you? If you, is it getting all of them done, or is it just like the intention?
It's the intention. I think there's an assumption with me, for those who watch me on social media, that I get all the things done and I get it all done, every day. And I am somebody who actually more inherently has a squirrel brain, right? So I am always forgetful. I am, even with habits, I am awful at keeping consistency. So it's born out of, I know I'm not going to be perfect, but zeroing back to the intentions, at least on a weekly basis, is as good as
Yeah.
I'm going to get. Because I even look at like taking my supplements. Well, I've forgotten to do it the last 2 days, right? It's just, I am somebody who does fall off track very easily, and having that checklist and having that intention reminds me of the purpose and my vision. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not filling it out every day. I may have it in my head every day,
Right.
but especially Tidy 15. Like I said, Tidy 15 is one where I'm like, meh, I don't want to do it. But it's important, because then I freak out when my house is messy.
Oh
So,
my gosh. Yeah.
you know,
Well, I like hearing that. Like, even myself, when I talk about like my different systems, I don't do them every day perfectly. But they're called systems for a reason. They're there so that if you get off track, you can easily get back on track, right? So you miss one of your better everyday 5. Tomorrow you try to do it. If you don't do it, okay, you try the next day too. I think we just shame ourselves a lot, especially if
yeah,
you're like perfectionist or even like Enneagram 3 achiever. You think you have to be perfect. That's actually not that relatable.
right.
So like, I love when you share like pictures of your pad and how it's like just kind of a mess, because it's how it like it's full. That's
Yeah.
normal. I think that's normal for a working parent. It's like full all day long.
I always get
So,
jealous of the people with fancy handwriting, because that's the one thing that always holds me back from sharing mine, is my handwriting. I
oh
don't
my
like it.
gosh.
And I'm like, I want to be the person that has pretty handwriting. I do a planner company. I should have pretty handwriting.
I think it's okay. I think you should share it if it's sloppy. Because I know there's other people that like show planners online and they will say they have like the one they use to film and the one they use for real life. I'm like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Just show the real life one. So
Yes.
super cool. Well, I know we're kind of like nearing the end, so I want to just kind of ask you about you know, if you like have any plans for this year where people can kind of like reach you and how you'd like to interact with more audience this year. I know my audience is working professionals. Some of them are small business owners, some of them aren't, but they're like trying to learn leadership skills. So maybe like before you tell us where they can find you, like what would be some advice that you would give people if number one, they're looking to start a side hustle, and number two, like the biggest advice you have for just staying on track with your systems throughout the day?
So on starting a side hustle, I would say start scared and do whatever you're passionate about because you will learn through it. And that's kind of the best part. I mean, in my opinion, is
Yeah.
learning through it. And then on, what is it, to-dos and productivity? Is that what you just said?
Yeah,
On
like
system
how to
one?
kind of stay on track with your systems and like whether it's balancing corporate and family or corporate and side hustle or even just their, busy corporate life. I know you're really efficient in your work.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is don't discount the time to plan.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
the biggest advice I can give is actually planning out your week. And I do both. I plan kind of at a high level, strategic level, my personal life, including P&W Designs. But then Monday mornings on my corporate job, I make sure that I plan my week on my corporate job and make sure I have everything written down with due dates. And I spend 45 minutes doing it. But that effectiveness saves me hours and hours and hours of time every week. And there's so many people that just don't do that, right?
Yeah, so you actually plan to plan.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I tell people that that's what you have to do or else like you'll never plan because
Yeah.
it's kind of weird, but even putting a time block on your calendar for like planning,
Yeah.
you if you feel weird about it too, I don't know if you ever like do this, but I'll make my meetings sound like more professional or whatever. So I'll be like strategic planning.
Yeah, strategic planning is definitely the corporate buzzword.
Or like weekly focus and
Yes.
but really what I'm doing is just like you said, looking at what I've got to do, what I want to do. um at the end of the week, if I was, what would I want to happen, and then plugging that all in. So I love that. All right, so oh, did you have something else?
No, I was gonna say, and so
Yeah.
then so my podcast the Being Better Every Day podcast focuses on overwhelm and, kind of intentional productivity for busy moms. We do have definitely a working mom's tilt to it because that is the reality in the seat I sit in.
Yeah.
And so on all major podcast platforms, and then I also replicate those on YouTube. So I'm not doing necessarily like separate YouTube videos, but I am, we're on video today for those who want to watch us. And certainly, you have your YouTube too for that same reason. And then I do show up really consistently on Instagram.
You're so
Mostly
good on it.
well, it's being from a history of network marketing, you get in the habit of it.
Yeah.
But I show up daily and it's julie.pwdesigns is my Instagram handle. And that's the same handle for YouTube as well. And those are the really main focus areas for 2024. I had been running my own Pinterest last year, but I just don't have time. And so I've had to kind of prioritize. And the podcast is definitely a newer passion, but one I love doing. So
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. So anybody who's listening or watching, like go check out her Instagram. If you're a small business owner, and you need a custom planner, like reach out to Julie because like I've seen all of the beautiful designs she does. They're so good. And I have like I said, your planner pad that I really like. And then yeah, I hope your YouTube and podcast continues to grow because I think for a while, I don't know about how you felt about this, but I kind of shied away from talking about like the mom stuff for a while because I didn't know how relatable it would be. And then as soon as I started talking about like, it's not just the work,
yeah.
people were like, oh, that makes more sense. Cause it kind of seemed like, you had it all together or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's
No,
a lot.
none of us do.
Yeah. So I love hearing from you about that and seeing you show up so like genuinely on Instagram. Like this is literally what I'm doing every day, which includes the Better Everyday 5. You show your workouts, you show, working on your corporate job, you show working on P&W Designs, and then you show like the bedtime and the nighttime routines for you and your kid and time with your hubby. So I know that you guys do like at least like once a month you go on dates and stuff.
Yes.
And I'm like, I told my husband, like, we're doing that now.
Yeah.
We're going to start doing that.
Especially after a kid. I mean, we don't like spending the money on babysitters, but it's been something that we, especially when you are doing a business on the side, we need the time to just be together. Otherwise, we're just partners raising a kid. So
amen. That's how I feel. Well, thank you so much for teaching us all this stuff. And I'll definitely need to have you back on the podcast in another time.
I love having conversations.
Thanks, Julie.